The Pinball Enterprise. So, last I left off, I went ahead and finished with the white primer base coat. And then after that dried, and I basically spent the entire afternoon and just did several light coats. And I went ahead and sprayed Future on. The Future is basically a gloss coat for any model, especially when you do a lot of decals. It just makes it a nice shiny surface, and it makes the decals slide on better. And just a overall good sealer. So anyway, and they don't make that Future anymore. And look, I bought that many years ago, and I'm basically down to that. And I may have to buy the newer kind, which is it's the same, but it's not. But anyway, I'll probably end up buying a new bottle so we can see if it's any good as the Future. And I may just take the new stuff, put it in the old Future bottle, because I do love the old Future bottle. But anyway, that's another thing. So I got it sprayed. I had to let it sit all day, and it's dry to the touch and everything. So I started on the decals. And one thing I did with all the decals, or at least some of the sheets, I went ahead and sprayed it with, there it is. I sprayed it with decal bonder, and I let it sit for the day yesterday as well, so we were good to go. This is Creation decals. I know a lot of people will probably ask. I don't know if he makes them anymore. Probably, you can probably get them eBay. You might be able to find them Cult TV Man, Starship Modeler, but they're excellent decals. My only complaint is they're basically on a continuous sheet, so you have to cut really, really close to the decal itself, and I say all aftermarket, not all aftermarket decals, but ones that are on continuous sheet that like to curl just a tad. My only complaint, but that's easy. You can always cut them in half just to make them where they don't curl anymore. But anyway, I went ahead and started putting the decals on. Now this is, again, I always like to say the boring stage. It'll start taking shape with the decals, but I have to limit myself to about 2 to 3 decals a day. After that, you start messing up, and you just don't want that. So if you do 2 decals a day, if you get up in the morning before you go to work, put a couple decals on, go to work, come home, and you put another 2 decals on. You can do that. I try to do that. That way you just do a couple each day, and before you know it, you got the majority of it done. But anyway, I got about 4 decals on. I did 2 this morning, and then I did one more this morning here, and basically they go down really good. You just need and I had to invest into some soft brushes. Craft store, hobby store has them, and just make these strictly for decals, no painting, and put them on. I always massage with water first to get the decal lay down flat, let it set up, and then you can go back in with microsol here and really get it down to really get it sit to the model. But anyway, that's the way I do it. I want to get probably most of the decals on, and then I'll eventually work my way with the microsol and get the decals on. But anyway, they do fit. One thing I do on Aztec decals, and I don't line them up exactly. If you can see like a little bit of a line here, what I do is I kind of overlap them just a tad, and then I'll go back in with the airbrush, and I'll airbrush the panels. That way it gives it a more of a shading effect. That's just the way I do it. I think it looks cool, and it just gives a little more character to the model. But anyway, that's what I stand on that. One person asked me about the base here. I got this at Harbor Freight. It's actually a movable vise. You unscrew it here, move it whichever direction you want. I like it for, I basically call it like a motion control, like when they had put a model on a filming stand. And then I went to the hardware store, bought a Lazy Susan ball bearings, and got some scrap wood, and I made it just for this, so you can actually spin it. So it just makes it easier to run. Plus I got the big Lazy Susan, and then the Tamiya one as well. But anyway, that's where I stand on that. So I thought maybe that will clarify the Harbor Freight stand there. I did get to paint one more thing on the Enterprise here, and that's the deflector dish. I went ahead and dipped it in Tamiya clear blue, and of course I got to paint the little little rib details. That's no big deal, and we'll get that later on, because I got to paint that as with the nacelles, because there's little thin strips there. But anyway, there's that. So we'll be on the decal duty stage for the time being. The Devil's Anvil, I went ahead and started painting. I went ahead and put the base coat on, which was Vallejo's dark yellow. I went ahead and got the track painted, which is just dark track, which that's rust track. Got dark track paint on there. I did get part of the camouflage on. I got the basically German green, and I went ahead and I sort of don't like it, but I do too. I did paint the weird colored wheels, I think. Don't know if they actually did it, but I think it looks cool. It's one of those, you love or hate it. And then I started, it's one of those camos where it's actually inside the green. So I took some brown, and I'm going to take some rust brown and probably some dark track, and I'll mix just a tad bit of a different brown. But I'm going in and painting the with a brush. Airbrush, I really can't do it. But it's actually the camo, the brown camo is actually inside the green, and I want to call it like a tiger. It's basically just little stripes and all that, so I just been going like a little bit of random pattern on here, and I'll continue on with the rest of the day. And then my next thing after I get the camo on, I'd like to get the tools painted, and then go in with a wash, and then start doing pigments and everything, and getting all that, and probably have this done probably by the end of the week. Is what I'm hoping. What I am hoping, but we will continue on as we continue on with the painting of the Devil's Anvil. So that's what I got going on today. I want to do a quick update before I get a little further along here. I should have a shed update, so stay tuned for that. So that's what I got going on today. We are camouflaging the Devil's Anvil, and we are starting the decals on the Pinball Enterprise. So that's what I got going on today, so stay tuned for the next exciting episode.